Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burckhardt. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. Today is September 10th, 2025, and I hope you are all having a wonderful day wherever you are. And it's going to get just a little bit better because I have got an amazing guest for you today. But then again, when don't I? All of these authors are just so fantastic and have such incredible personal journeys behind the books that they're producing. It's so much fun talking to all of them, and today is no exception. I love whenever I get to talk to somebody like this. If you look at the promotional pictures that I have up for today's guest, he looks a little intimidating. But when you actually sit down and talk to him, this is one of the most fun interviews that I have had. We laughed so much. It was just absolutely fantastic. And now I get to share that with all of you. So sit back and relax and enjoy this interview with Jason Brick. The way that I always like to start these podcasts is to just have my guest tell everyone who you are and what you do.
All right. Well, I'm Jason Brick, and I spent the first half of my adult life in the martial arts and security sphere, and then transitioned to a career in freelance writing and journalism. In the most recent years, I had a COVID seizure, like a lot of people, and decided to cross those streams and start applying my interview skills and my information gathering skills towards keeping our families safe. In the course of that, I've written a couple of books on that topic, as well as a whole lot of other books to keep the lights on.
I noticed you do have a large collection of anthologies.
Yes. For a while there, for about 10 years, I did an anthology project called Flash in a Flash, where each volume was 100 stories by 100 authors, each story less than 1,000 words. And that was a really fun time and created a really fun community. And that was really interesting. Those are still available on Amazon. And I got to work with a lot of very talented people.
I've always loved those kind of books. Whenever I was growing up, my dad always got those bathroom readers.
Yeah.
They weren't fiction stories, but they were just like little snippets of facts about something. They were really interesting. And as an adult writer, I got to participate in a few of those kind of anthologies where it was 500 words and everybody got the same prompt. It was so much fun. It was a great exercise.
Yeah. And you also get to meet cool people who get it.
Yeah.
Our partners and our drinking buddies, they kind of like that we're writers, but they don't get it the way that other writers do.
Yeah. Now, for quite a while, you ran a martial arts school before becoming a writer. How did that career shape the way that you approached becoming a writer?
That's a really good question. And I blame a lot of my success in writing on having first done my career in the martial arts sphere. That reputation that we all got from watching Karate Kid and whatnot about the discipline that's associated with long-time training in the martial arts. And of course, that's a part of it, because as every writer knows, there are days when you don't feel like writing, but you really got to go do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a less well publicized aspect of it, which is the ability to take feedback.
Yeah.
I know a lot of writers who, you send in your story either to a publisher or to your writing group, and then it comes back with a lot of red pencil and you're just wrecked because, this is your baby that you created. You put a little piece of yourself out there in the world. And when people don't love it, that can really hurt our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But having come to this from a career in the martial arts, feedback and room for improvement that doesn't come in the form of a jab to the head is actually pretty easy to handle.
Yeah.
There's a culture of iterative improvement by receiving feedback that's part of martial arts training that isn't part of a lot of other ways people end up in writing. So that has helped me out a great deal.
Now, I know that you're also quite the globetrotter. You've lived in Japan, Malaysia, and Greece. How did those
Mhm.
experiences influence your work today?
Oh, fabulous question. Japan was when I was in my late 20s, and I lived there for the better part of 2 years. And that was kind of an incubation period where when you take that job teaching English in Japan, you have a great deal of free time and you're far away from your social circle. So you have a little more time to just kind of sit. And I set some goals about writing and submitting, and I got my first paid gig while I was over there, as well as, living in the English language and talking with other interesting and curious people. The trips to Malaysia and Greece are a little bit the other way around, where having lived abroad for a year and seeing what that did for how I live in the world and how much I liked how it impacted me, I wanted that for my children. And as a full time freelance writer, I'm location independent. So I was able to take my boys, at the time, the oldest was 14 and the youngest was 4, to Malaysia and just continue to work as a freelancer from there. And the 14-year-old, it benefited him a lot. Of course, the 4-year-old didn't really remember it.
Yeah.
So just last year, we took him to Greece so he could have that experience and become a bigger, better, braver person by getting out of his context for a year and realizing that it's not as difficult as it's made out to look. And also what you learn from being in a place where most of the people don't look like you and they don't speak the language you speak, and all of those benefits.
I know whenever I got to go to Japan, I still miss there was a canned coffee with cream and sugar, and it would come out of the vending machine hot, and it was like the best thing I ever tasted.
Yeah, those vending machines are fabulous. I used to they were doing energy drinks like 20 years before Monster showed up over here. And those would always be there. And then you've got your hot drinks and your cold drinks coming out of the same machine. They're decades ahead of us when it comes to vending machine technology.
Oh my God. And the video arcades? Oh my God. I
Yes,
spent
absolutely.
way too much money there.
Fantastic.
So now, what was the moment that actually inspired you to leave the dojo and go to a writer's desk?
That was about 6 months after our oldest son is adopted. He came into our family when he was 7 years old. And running a martial arts school is an evenings and weekends job because that's when people have time to come to class. And after 6 months of working evenings and weekends with a school age child, I just realized that career wasn't going to let me be the father I felt I should be.
So, how has that impacted your relationship? Did you see a noticeable difference once you made that change?
Well, it was pretty early on, so it kind of was the baseline for our entire relationship. And of course, when the younger one came along, I was home as well. It's because writing is time independent as well as location independent. As long as I turned my stuff on in time, none of my clients cared when I did it. So if
Hmm.
there was a basketball game to go see, or a soccer match, or a play, or I coached the oldest one's wrestling team for several years and the youngest one's chess team for several years. And I was able to go on all the field trips and all of that and be home when they get home and be there with them for breakfast. And it just gave me the flexibility to spend that time. There was somebody I interviewed for my show recently who pointed out that to children, love is spelled Time,
Yeah.
and that to be available and to be seen, emphasizing them and prioritizing them throughout their life. I'm sure that's they're we're still everybody's a work in progress, but it seems to have been working out for us pretty well so far.
That's so great. What did you find most surprising when you went to publish your first book?
Oh, and this is one of me just doing bad research. Timeline on traditional publishing
Yeah.
is just brutal. You finish your book and then you send it to an agent, and it's going to be a year before you get an agent, if you get an agent. And then it's going to be a year before they sell it. And then it's going to be 2 or 3 years before that book hits the racks.
Hmm.
And I discovered that also in my freelance writing, where I do a chapter for a book. I do a lot of writing in the tabletop role playing game industry, for example.
Hmm.
And so I'd write a chapter in a game book, then 2 years later it would come out. And by then I had improved in my craft to a point where I was a little embarrassed by what was on the published page, especially compared to print to self-publishing, which is a much faster turnaround.
Oh, yeah. Now, how did you handle the marketing whenever you had your first book come out?
The good news about that was another way that spending 15 years running and managing martial arts schools helped. I had already received a fairly substantial grounding in the basics of marketing. And so I was able to take the lessons I'd learned marketing a brick and mortar school and was able to apply those to marketing my books, marketing myself, marketing my brand.
And that's usually one of the first things that derails some of the indie authors out there is they have no trouble writing the book, they have no trouble getting it up to publish it, but then they don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's really unfair how many skills associated with success as a writer have nothing to do with writing.
Oh, yeah.
Um, it's just not fair. A way that I like to think about it, though, is that good sales, good marketing isn't that sleazy guy at the car lot.
Mhm.
It's being so excited about something, so just geekily excited about something that you can't help talking about it. Like the last time a friend recommended a book to you that you just absolutely loved, they sold you that book.
Yeah.
If you're married, you sold something at least once and you probably enjoyed the experience, right? And so marketing our books successfully and well is really just a matter of geeking out about how awesome this book we wrote was. And if we can't do that, then we need to go back and write a better book, a book we do feel that way about.
Yeah, that's true. Walk us through a typical writing day for you. Where do you write and what keeps you in your creative headspace?
So most of the time I get up, I have a kind of morning routine I go through, breakfast, check my calendar, my tasks for the day, get a little bit of a workout in. And then I'll do 2 or 3 hours of just of the heavy lifting writing, the stuff that requires concentration and focus. And I'll write for about a half an hour, get up and do some little task around the house, then sit back down. That'll get me to around noon. Then my wife and I have lunch, we go to the gym together, and then in the afternoon I spend some time on the less demanding tasks, emails, admin, social media, editing, things like that. And then my son gets home from school around 4 and it's full-time family time after that.
That's a great schedule.
I'm pretty fond of it, pretty happy with it my own self. You know, it's changed as the kids were different ages, different stages. Like now my youngest is 15. It's a crapshoot whether or not he wants to see my face when he gets home from school. He's a teenager.
Yeah.
You know, there's one day he brings home 6 of his friends to play D&D. But that flexibility of being able to write when we have the time rather than to a 9 to 5 schedule really helps with that as well.
I have a bad habit of starting with like email first, and that distracts me way too much.
Yeah,
I need to put that at the end of the day.
yes, absolutely. It was life changing for me. Social media and email after lunch. Because not only does it burn that energy you have when you first sit down, but
Hmm.
also if you email somebody at 9 a.m., that son of a bitch is going to email you back.
I know.
And then you have to email them again that day.
That's usually what is my killer.
I will not email. Email us the mind killer. Email us the little breath, death that brings sorrow for the Dune fans out there.
Now, whenever you do get into like a creative slump, what do you do to get your creativity flowing again?
So there's a story. An older mystery writer named Robert B. Parker. He wrote the
Hmm.
Spencer series.
Yeah.
Folks who don't know that right away might remember the TV show based on it, Spencer for Hire from the 80s. He was being interviewed once that I saw, and he was talking about his writing day, which was get up, eat breakfast, work out, write 5 pages. Some days he's done before lunch, some days he's done a little after midnight. But he sits his butt down and he writes his 5 pages. And the interviewer asked him, well, what about writer's block? And he said, ma'am, I'm a professional writer. Has your plumber ever canceled an appointment because he had plumber's block? You know, the difference between an amateur and a professional is doing the work even when you don't feel like doing the work.
Yeah.
So part of it has just been conditioning myself over now 16 years to look at what we might call writer's block and check in on that, because it's not that we don't have those feelings, they're just not coming. But okay, am I fatigued?
Hmm.
Am I nervous about my ability to write this next section because maybe somebody's defusing a bomb and I don't know enough about defusing bombs to write it well? Or maybe it's somebody being emotionally honest in a way that triggers some of my vulnerabilities and I'm afraid to do it. Am I annoyed? Is the cat in my lap and I don't want to get up? Am I hungry? And I just look beyond the presenting symptom, as it were, and find the disease. And then over the years, I developed reasonable cures for each of those diseases, at least the ones that hit me most often.
So what does hit you most often?
Often it's either fear or fatigue. And with fatigue, I find that, I've just been writing on this one project for so long, I'm a little tired of it. It's a third draft, or I didn't sleep well last night, or whatever it is. And usually just changing venue, moving from the desktop to a laptop in the backyard, or
Hmm.
grabbing the laptop and heading over to the local pub, or grabbing a spiral notebook and a pen. Just changing that venue for some reason really helps me with fatigue. And then with fear, it's just like I was talking about, where for some reason I don't feel like I'm going to do this next scene well enough. And then I figure out, well, what is it I don't know? What is it I haven't experienced? And then what I do is I give myself permission to write the scene badly. and then make the promise to myself that later on I'll do the research and come back and do any editing and changes I need.
And I think that's a really smart bit of advice. It's like people don't want to write unless it's going to be perfect. Like, no, just write.
Yeah.
It can be actual garbage and you may have to come back later and throw it all out, but just write.
Yeah. You have to write a bad book before you can write a good book.
Hmm.
And if we're really, really, really lucky, it's the same book.
Yeah.
We all have that one file folder
Yeah.
that we will never, ever, ever show anybody. I married a literary agent about 8 years ago, and there's some stories she is never going to see. So,
Now, what has been the most rewarding aspect of your journey as an author so far?
the low hanging fruit, of course, is what it has allowed me to do with and for my family. That available time, that flexibility of energy, the ability to take them overseas, the ability to spend my workday at home. My wife also works from home, and just to have the time to foster those relationships. But that's a little bit of a cheat, also, right? That's everybody says, "What's your favorite thing?" Something, something, family, family, something, something.
Yeah.
Right. A really good example of that, that's a very funny story, was my youngest wanted to join the chess team at his elementary school, and they didn't have a chess team. So he's in second grade. I go to his principal. I say, "Hey, why don't you guys have a chess team?" And he looks me in the eye and says, "Because I don't have a parent volunteer to run the chess team, Mr. Brick," and maintained eye contact until he had a chess team. Uh, but I was able to do that, and we spent 5 years doing that. So that is, of course, my favorite thing. But the other thing is, especially with the anthologies and working in publishing in the martial arts and safety sphere and in the tabletop role playing game sphere, I've gotten to meet some really cool and interesting people who
Hmm.
I like, who have remained friends of mine since we worked together. Because part of the job, especially if you're working in a freelance capacity or doing anthologies, is hanging out with people.
Yeah. Even though you have been able to have such flexibility, have there been any surprising sacrifices that you have had to make to have the career that you want?
Sometimes I have to write stuff that I don't feel like writing. I've been doing this full time since 2009. If I have to write one more corporate blog on personal finance, I swear to God, I'm gonna just buckle down and write the damn thing because they're lucrative and they keep my family eating food and sleeping indoors.
Hmm.
But sometimes, especially, you'll get a reputation and a group of contacts, and you just end up writing the same damn thing over and
Yeah.
over and over. And if it's something you're fascinated with, for example, with self-defense and tabletop role-playing games, for me, that's great. But if it's something you just happen to have some experience with, but it's certainly better than the worst part of working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, the book that we're focusing on today is There I Was When Nothing Happened: True Tales
Yes.
of Real Self-Defense from Professionals in the Field. What made you decide to write this project?
Well, so first, I'm going to correct you just a little bit. It's not True Tales of Self-Defense; it's True Tales of Violence Prevention.
Oh, because that's what it is on the Amazon page. Because I was just reading it straight from the Amazon page.
I'm going to have to go get that changed. And the difference is important, although really we're talking about the same thing. And how this book came about was in 2020, I started my podcast, Safest Family on the Block, where I interview experts on protecting our kids and our spouses and our elders and our pets using those twin lenses of, at that point, 10 years in journalism and decades in martial arts.
Hmm.
And I would interview crime prevention specialists, but I'd also interview child psychologists, nutritionists, driving instructors, lifeguards, anybody who had insights. But one of the things I noticed while I was interviewing all of these people was that the people who were real experts on violence, the last thing they wanted to do, the last thing was to get involved in violence.
Hmm.
And so I got this anthology project together where I found 50 violence professionals, and we're talking police, military, bodyguards, martial arts instructors, EMTs, people who are in the field, all people who would generally win a fight, telling a story about a time that they avoided a fight instead. And so we've got these 50 stories of preventing violence by leaving when you see the trouble starting, saying the funny thing at the right time, engaging somebody who's being aggressive really honestly, helping them feel seen, all kinds of different techniques to knock into a fight. And for me, one of the goals of the books was that helping those 19 to 29-year-old knuckleheads in the dojos all over the world see a model of violence avoidance rather than, going out and getting into bar fights.
Personally, in my own experience, I've always found that one of the biggest mistakes that people make in those kinds of situations is they allow the aggressor to pull you into their energy level instead of
Yeah.
you remaining calm and trying to pull them into yours.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really great example of a guy who's working as a bouncer at a concert and was dispatched over to where this huge guy with no shirt was getting ready to cause a ruckus. Sees our narrator walking up in his security t-shirt. And the dude just points at him and says, "You're going to need more friends." You're like, oh no. But the guy saw the dude's US Marine Corps tattoo
Hmm.
and then rolled up his sleeve and pointed to his own and said, "Brother, I thought we were friends."
Nice.
And then spent the next half hour just nerding out with that dude about heavy metal concerts they've been to.
That's amazing.
That just real quick shift of energy, of
Hmm.
attitude, and not succumbing to that chest puffery that we feel we have to, especially young men, because we've been challenged.
Yeah. Now, are there any stories in this book that really resonated with you personally?
Oh, there were a couple of them in there. It's been a few years since the book came out, so sometimes I forget things. There were some that I found very fun, very clever. One particularly that really stuck with me was by a gentleman named Stephen Barnes. He's a science fiction author and a martial artist who I've known for many years. And he's telling a story about in the early 80s, he's coming out of an apartment in Oakland at 2 in the morning. And some guy comes up and shoves him up against his car and says, "Give me your wallet." And this guy, who at that time he'd already been training in the martial arts for more than 20 years, Steven just kind of looks at him and has the one impulse to just, wreck this guy's day. But
Hmm.
instead just looks up and says, "Hey, man, what is it you really need here? Because if there's something I can help you with, this just has to be one guy helping another guy. It doesn't have to be a crime." And this poor, 19-year-old just kind of falls into himself a little and looks at him and says, "$10."
Oh,
And
wow.
Steve gives him a 20 and sends it and says, "Here's 20, go with God."
That's amazing.
That changing a crime into an act of kindness and compassion
Hmm.
really got my attention. There's another by a fellow named Rory Miller, who's a very influential writer in the self-defense sphere who spent his career in corrections. And there was an inmate that was refusing to come out of his cell and said he was going to fight whoever came in. So Rory comes up to the door and says, "Hey, buddy, I need you to get out of the cell." And, expletive, 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 "I'm gonna da 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 da." And then he
Hmm.
says, "But I said, please." The guy started laughing. So I said, "Okay, okay, I'm coming out. I'm coming out." That was, yeah. So those are two examples. And there's 50 different stories. And like those two were in the section about de-escalation, where you engage and de-escalate. But there's others about awareness and preparation, and also about at the end escape, where it's not working, and this person is intent on doing you harm, and how do you escape even in that? And it's kind of split into those four sections.
What have you been working on recently? Because this book came out in 2022.
I think so. I think it was 2022. Most recently, my book Safest Family on the Block, which came from the podcast, is out, and that's 101 tips and tricks, or what the kids call hacks these days, right?
Hmm.
About protecting your family that I learned from those interviews, and that's the nonfiction project that I'm most engaged with right now. It's been a lot of fun. I got to learn a lot from a lot of very smart people and put the book together. It's gotten some very good reviews and some very good attention from people I respect, which I appreciate.
And is that on the market now or coming up?
It's on the market. It came out through YMAA Publishing back in April of this year.
Now, what are the Bushido Chronicles?
The Bushido Chronicles. That's my YA urban fantasy series, starring a high school wrestler and his friends who all go out and fight demons. It's a romp. It's fun.
And I noticed you have random encounters up to at
Uh,
least volume 5.
I think there's 10 of those out there. And that was a project in the tabletop role playing game industry that I did starting in 2014. And I think I did that up until about 2017. But there's 10 of them and they still sell reasonably well. It's a niche that's people who are into it are into it. And they're also $1 a piece, which helps keep the price point low and helps people engage with it.
Now seems like a good time to do our 5 quick questions that never turn out to be quick, but I'm just a nosy person and I want to know these things.
Splendid.
So, are you ready?
I'm born ready, conceived ready.
If you could wake up tomorrow and have gained one quality or skill, what would it be?
Ooh, I've always wanted to learn how to play the fiddle.
Fiddle or violin?
Fiddle. I'm not. I think it's the same instrument, but it's the style. Like I don't want to be
Hmm.
playing Mozart. I want to be playing Celtic jigs.
Yeah. Question 2.
Mhm.
There are several places on your social media where you refer to yourself as a geek. What is
Oh
it
yes.
about you that has earned you that title?
So there are folks who are going to argue about the etymology of nerd versus geek versus dork, right? And I'm probably all three, especially if you ask my teenage kid. But to me, being a geek is being really enthusiastic about things that are part of nerd culture, like
Hmm.
comic books, fantasy and science fiction, tabletop role playing games, video games. I'm kind of a specialist where I'm not much of a comic book guy. I'm not much of a video game guy, but I'm deeply into tabletop role playing games and I read a lot of fantasy and science fiction and write a reasonable amount of fantasy. I'd like to write more science fiction, but it turns out I'm not very good at it.
You know what's really crazy? Okay, I'm very into comic books and video games, and I have never played a tabletop role-playing game.
Yeah, I've met people like that. I actually used to tease a friend of mine for a very long time about how I was revoking his geek card because he'd never rolled a d20. But to each their own. My wife actually had always been interested, but had never played until she married me. And after a year of missing out every Thursday night, she sat down and played, and she's been having fun since.
Well, the last time that I made a trip back to Kansas, I was telling one of my friends that I went to high school with that I'd always wanted to play that stuff, but I never knew anybody who played. And he's like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "This is who played." And he like named off 5 people that I knew. And they promised me the next time I come back to Kansas, they're going to invite me in for a game.
Well, kids these days don't understand that for folks our age in school, you kept that stuff secret
Hmm.
because the kids would slam into a locker and half the adults thought it was satanic for some reason.
And a lot of times for girls, boys would
Uh,
tell you that it wasn't for girls.
yeah, we're gonna go off into left field really fast, but it was certainly true when you and I were growing up, and there's a little bit of it now, although a lot less, where there were girls were discouraged from doing things that made them seem smart
Hmm.
because it would limit dating options.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that that is a trend that is not going there, but that also kept girls out of D&D and out of STEM classes.
Yeah. True. So now question 3. What's one trait or quirk of yours that surprises people when they first meet you?
Um, I'm nicer, I think, than people expect, because I'm kind of irascible and cranky online, and then I've got the reputation with the martial arts and the tough
Hmm.
guy. Rah, 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 rah. But I'm just a big old teddy bear. Yeah. So I think that does surprise people when they first meet me.
Well, I think the full beard and everything does soften you up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. This is kind of a new thing. About a year ago, my wife and I watched John Wick.
Hmm.
And so this is an audio medium, but until about a year ago, I had very close cropped hair, very close cropped beard. But we were watching John Wick, and I'm about midlife crisis age. So I asked my wife, "Hey, do you think I could pull that off?" And she kind of looks at me and says, "Well, you damn well better try." So, so here we are, and yeah, it does seem to soften it up a little bit. I look a lot less like a henchman.
So now question 4. What is one place where you feel most at peace and why?
Oh, well, as it turns out, as soon as I'm getting off this call, I am cooking a bunch of stuff to put in the coolers and take up to a cabin on a lake that's been in my family since the 1920s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just outside of Bend, Oregon, on a lake called Elk Lake. And yeah, back during the Depression, my great grandfather and his 3 kids acquired a federal lease of land because it's in the middle of the Deschutes National Forest.
Hmm.
And they built the cabin there by hand over the course of 5 or 6 years. And we grow up going there every summer since a kid and bringing my kids and everything. And it's a family get together sort of thing. And yeah, it's a place that I've always associated with peace and fun. And as it turns out, I get to go there tomorrow morning.
Oh, wow. That sounds wonderful.
It really is
My husband and I just finally bought a bunch of camping equipment, and we're going to go camping in September when it's cooler here.
outstanding. And I'm actually going to take an excuse, a shameless plug. One of the tips in that Safest Family on the Block book is about everybody wants that go bag now, right? Your
Hmm.
emergency go bag. But it's really just camping gear.
Yeah.
And if you keep your camping gear in the backpack in your trunk, first of all, it frees up that corner of the closet. And
Hmm.
then you always have a go bag. It doesn't have to be, black Velcro festooned Molly tactical nonsense. It's just put your camping gear in the trunk of your car and you've got a go bag.
That's great advice.
And serves one of those. It's not going to happen frequently. It's probably not going to happen at all,
Hmm.
but it can, like I like to say, it can turn a tragedy into an emergency and an emergency into an inconvenience.
Oh, nice. So now, question 5. We're asking everybody the same question this season because we're compiling a list of recommendations for our year-end book buying guide. When
Hmm.
someone asks you for a book recommendation, who is the first author that comes to mind for you?
So first of all, it's going to depend on the person.
Hmm.
Right now, I'm probably going to ask them if they are aware of the Murderbot Chronicles by Martha Wells.
Oh, no. Tell me.
Okay. So the universe it appears in is very similar to the one that's put forward in the Alien franchise.
Hmm.
Many, many star systems, humanity's gone out into the stars. We haven't found a lot of aliens. We haven't found any alien, like intelligent aliens. And it's just a brutally dystopian corporate hellscape, right?
Hmm.
The alien universe. And in that universe, you take Terminators, but they're actually bodyguards. You hire a Terminator bodyguard if you're going to do something dangerous. Our protagonist is one of those bodyguards who has hacked the part of his system that makes him do what people say and not kill anybody.
Hmm.
But instead of going on a rampage, he just wants to watch TV. But humans are so damn stupid. He has to keep turning off his TV show and going to save the day. And they're funny and they're smart. And because he's a robot learning to deal with humans, it's very autistic coded,
Hmm.
which is for people who have any kind of spectrum in their family, which our family does. A lot of people feel very seen by it.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. They're very fun. There's 7 in the series now, 6 of which are novellas, so they're quick reads. And they just released the TV adaptation of the first book over on Apple TV recently and did a pretty good job.
Oh my God. That sounds amazing.
But yeah. So right now I'm probably going to throw Murderbot at people most of the time. Unless it's somebody who I know, oh, you need to read this. Like if you're looking for a nonfiction fix, David Quammen is my go-to. He is, if Mark Twain were a 20th century science and nature writer,
Hmm.
it would sound like David Quammen. He's smart, he's funny, he has clever turns of phrase, and writes about just the most fascinating things.
Okay, both of those recommendations are amazing. I'm gonna have to be checking them out today.
My go-to essay from David Quammen, he has several books that are collections of essays he wrote for magazines like National Geographic and Outside and Smithsonian.
Hmm.
And more recently in his career, he's been doing book-length projects. But one of my favorite essays is one where he holds forth that crows are bored. That corvids in general and crows in particular are way too smart for the ecological niche they inhabit, which is why they engage in behavior like teasing dogs and bears. And apparently, there's a species of ant that gets them high. So they get involved in juvenile delinquency behaviors because they're bored. And it's just hilarious and smart and erudite and well researched. And yeah, you can't go wrong reading a little David Quammen now and
That just sounds so interesting.
again.
I love finding out these little things about different animal species. It's amazing.
In that case, you're going to love this stuff. Lean into the earlier things because it's a broader cross section of topics, so you'll learn more factoids. The more recent ones are more kind of narrative and focused.
Thank you for those suggestions. Those are fabulous.
Absolutely.
Now, what is one thing that you would hope that people remember about you from today's episode?
Really just remember the show and the book, and not just from a marketing standpoint. Safest Family on the Block, it's a YouTube channel and it's the book that I've come out with. Yeah, it'll do me good for people to remember that and go see those. But also, I'm not a really smart person. What I am is a person who listens closely to smart people and remembers what they tell me. And on the show and in the book, we're getting advice from world-class experts in the most important things that can keep our families safe. And I believe the book's going to save some lives. And I wanted to get out there as far as possible so it can save as many lives as possible.
I can see where it would definitely be something needed in the public right now.
No, absolutely. And also just the calmness of it. One of the real focuses of the book is that, when we talk about family safety, we think about crime prevention almost immediately. But that's such a small part of protecting our families.
Hmm.
Uh, mental health is so important. Driving safety is more important.
Usually the first thing I think of is tornadoes. I am from Kansas.
Oh, yeah, because you're there. Yes. So, yeah, and that's immediately the huge hand of God coming down, you
Hmm.
know, and that's predictable. But, and again, that's not crime prevention, but it's a thing that you can't prevent the tornado, but you can take some very specific steps that mean that you're more likely to be safe if a tornado strikes, and also just helps you not be running around all the time worried about a tornado.
Exactly.
And that's what we really hope for.
Now, remind our listeners who you are and where they can find you and your books.
Sure. I'm Jason Brick. You can find my books on Amazon. You can find stuff about me at brick-jason.com. You spell the comma. So it's BRICKCOMMAJASON. I thought it was clever before I really thought about how often I'd have to explain that. Um, you can find the Safest Family on the Block project on YouTube, and you can find it at safestfamilyontheblock.org. I'm on Facebook, probably more as often than is healthy. There's 6 or 7 Jason Bricks on Facebook. I'm the only one that talks about family safety, heavy metal music, and tabletop role playing games most days. So I should be pretty easy to spot.
Now, before we go, what is your favorite video game?
My favorite video game ever was a game called The Incredible Machine, which was where you assembled Rube Goldberg contraptions virtually on screen in a kind of progressive problem solving puzzle game. It's been out of print for decades, but that was my favorite ever. Right now, I really do like Portal, although it's a little old. And I've been playing a lot of a game called Solasta, it's a Dungeons and Dragons online clone that's like Baldur's Gate scaled down so it actually runs on a normal old laptop.
I still kind of go with some of the more pop culture kind of things. I'm totally addicted to Red Dead Redemption and
Oh,
Fortnite.
oh yeah. So my oldest loves Red Dead Redemption, and my youngest played a ton of Fortnite for a very long time. He's doing something else now. I think it's called Ultra Kill.
Hmm.
But yeah, those are solid games. I know a lot of people who play a lot of them.
Thank you so much for joining me here today. This has been such a wonderful conversation. You are a fun person to talk to.
Well, thank you, Diane. You have been really enjoyable to speak with as well.
So there you have it, folks. My incredible interview with the amazing Jason Brick. Now, some of you might be wondering why I left that discrepancy in there about the title of his book. Normally, something like that I would just go ahead and cut out. But whenever I was putting this interview together yesterday, I went and checked on Amazon again, and it's still showing two different titles for his book. They both list There I Was When Nothing Had Happened. That's correct. If you just search for Jason Brick, There I Was, or There I Was When Nothing Happened, you're going to find his book, no problem. But I wanted to make sure that you didn't get confused, because if you look at his cover art on the Amazon page, it shows that the subtitle of this book is True Tales of Violence Prevention from Professionals in the Field. But on the listing, it still shows True Tales of Real Self-Defense from Professionals in the Field. That is his book. That's the one you want whenever you go to buy this book, if you're buying it from any of the Amazons, because they all show the same listing. So I just left that in there because I wanted you to be aware that was that discrepancy, and I didn't want you to get confused whenever you go to buy the book. I want you to make sure that you get the right book because you're going to want it. Now, next week we're going to be shifting gears just a little bit because I will be sharing with you my interview with Joan Slonczewski. She is unique in her field. Joan actually publishes research with undergraduates on bacterial pH stress, which is funded by the National Science Foundation. She also studies cold-adapted microbes from Antarctica, along with being the author of sci-fi novels that have not only garnered many of awards, but she even won the John W. Campbell Memorial Award twice. She even teaches courses on microbiology, virology, and biology in science fiction. I personally would kill to take those classes with her. That would be amazing. And I get to share my talk with her about all of that with you next Wednesday. So be sure and come back. You don't want to miss out. We're going to be talking about her latest book, Minds in Transit. I love sci fi, and I'm so looking forward to sharing this interview with you. So now, hopefully, this will be the last bit of recording that I have to do from my makeshift studio here in my bed. I have another reassessment from my doctor this Friday, and with any luck, please cross your fingers, I will be paroled and can finally get away from this bed rest sentence that I've had for the last month, and I can get up and move around and get back into my normal studio so that I can make sure that we have got the best sound quality going for the next round of interviews, which I'm currently setting up. I only have 4 more authors that I need to have book their interviews, and I will have everything set for the end of this season. All of the final authors who are going to be coming up between now and December are going to be set and recorded and ready to go. I'm so looking forward to this. We've got so many more fantastic authors coming up for you. We've got children's books, we've got young adult books, we've got adult books, we've got fiction, we've got nonfiction, we've got so many great things coming. I can't wait to share it with all of you. So be sure and come back every Wednesday for another episode of Book Banter with Dianne Burckhardt, your book talk podcast. And yeah, that's it. It's time for you all to go forth and be really happy that we've got so many great authors coming up for you.